welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to cover two things. One, I guess my story, how I got into surveying yachts as a paint surveyor, paint expert. And the other is to actually show the process of surveying the paint. I got my start back in 2012 when a friend of my father's approached him saying he needed an inspector to go on a project that he couldn't get anybody to go on. So I had tried the military, had medical discharge, I had to have surgery on my wrist, and so medical discharge, I had no path, no career, no clue what I was going to do. I was about 22 years old. I tried college, couldn't stand it. Couldn't stand the idea of paying for something that I wasn't, certain of. Plus, a lot of people told me that if I didn't go to college, that, I would never, achieve anything. So hearing that did, something to me and turned it into a challenge. So my goal was to become successful, without college, one way or another. So this, inspector job that I never heard of, there's an actual job, title for it called a coating inspector, paint inspector. The association that does the certifications for this, job is called AMP, AMPP.org is their website. AMP stands for Association for Material Protection and Performance, and it used to be NACE, National Association of Corrosion Engineers, as well as SSPC, Society for Protective Coatings. So with those two combining, we have AMP now. They have a excellent program for paint inspectors, as well as cathodic protection. And if you guys want to have your mind melted, try to go through the 4 levels of certs that they have for cathodic protection. I have my level 1, and that was by far one of the hardest classes I've done, only because it's if you make a single mistake, the whole thing doesn't work. So it's a really interesting field, and it applies to so many different assets and infrastructure from an engineering standpoint. The coating inspector program, I believe it's basic coating inspector level 1, then they have level 2, and I think level 3 is now called senior coating inspector. It used to be certified level 3. Level 3 is really challenging because it's not a class. Your level 1 and level 2 is a 5-day class, and it's not for the faint of heart. And they crush you with information, but for me at least, it was very interesting stuff that I never heard of, never thought of, and it really opened my mind up to something. Here I am. So again, went and did this class, fell in love with it. The class is $2,700, give or take. Might be up to $3,000 by now. But it is by far, I can't stress this enough. I've told a bunch of people about it, and there's only been one gentleman that took my advice from a house party once, and he actually went and did the class just like I talked about, and his life completely improved. He's driving a big lifted truck, has wonderful family now. Life is going good, and it's all because of this 5-day class. Now again, it's more for the technical minded person. If you're tech savvy, interested in technology, interested in science, even some physics, pretty much. But there's a lot of interesting chemistry when it comes to coatings, whether it's on a yacht or on a bridge or a wastewater treatment plant or a water tower. the drinking water for the municipalities, lift stations, what else? Jet fuel storage tanks, stadiums, fireproofing inspections for condominiums and other, large skyscrapers and buildings. Anything that's steel or concrete that is in harsh environments needs protection. And that's where coatings, it's pretty wild how much of our infrastructure is protected by something that so few people even put a single thought into. And, and that's okay. But it just, the whole purpose of this video is to open up everyone's eyes to, the alternative career paths that are out there, and what you can do with this. I was 22 when I started. I'm 35 now, and I own Revay Coating Consultants based here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and been operating for 6.5 years now. I started in January of 2018, and been doing mostly yachts. I do certified lift stations for Palm Beach County. I also, have inspected, surveyed numerous wastewater treatment plants across the country, as well as bridges, overpasses, you name it. I've probably inspected something that is associated with it at least. But again, it's just the whole purpose of this is to get people interested in the cool stuff you can do out there. I did not go to college, and I'm happy that I didn't. I learned a ton going this route, and I'm very grateful for it. So I'm hoping that the awareness of this career path, can change, even if it's just another one person. It makes me very happy to see people, getting interested in this stuff, because I really enjoy it. I'm passionate about it. I just find it really interesting. But the whole way that I got started in yachts, because of my mentor, the guy that called my dad a long time ago and asked if I'd be interested. He had put me on a skyscraper, the outside of a skyscraper, the BNY Mellon building in downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I was afraid of heights, but quickly got over that because of the amount of money I was able to make. Going back to that story, no career path, had no clue what I was going to do until this class came along. I had my interview and I got the job, and I went to work for Greenman and Peterson. They were based in Maryland, but they cover, I believe they cover the U.S. and probably abroad. They're a decent, sized engineering firm with a whole coatings division. But they, that was my first employer. The project was very impressive. It was exciting, thrilling even. I really enjoyed being on that project. Then went to bridges and overpasses. Did the Charleroi-Monessen Bridge. Did the Route 65 overpasses. And what else? Water towers in New York. Paper mill in Georgia. Then wastewater treatment plants all along Virginia Beach. Did some job on a wastewater plant in Northern California. And then I started my company after all of that. Started my company, and since then, on average, maybe look at 60 to 75 the yachts per year, and do everything from general paint surveys after they get a new paint job, or while they're getting painted. Someone like myself will come in and inspect each of the steps throughout the whole process, and help ensure that the owner is getting a high quality paint job. And our job is to document it. So we come in and document the whole process, and produce really detailed reports that anybody could kind of come in and read. And that's where the challenge and skill comes in, from the position of taking information that can be overwhelming and complicated and shrink it down into something that's digestible that anybody could understand. And that's, I guess, where my current success has somewhat come from, is just my ability to relay this complicated information in ways that everybody can understand. So yeah, getting into it, the project that I first started on was an interesting one, and I honestly hope they make a movie about it. It's very unfortunate. My heart is completely broken for the owner because of the way things went. Some people may know of the project, some people may have never heard of it, but the project is Motor Yacht Anodyne, and it was going to be an amazing, truly amazing vessel. The owner spared no expense, and it was really impressive. Unfortunately, greed is a disgusting, feature of human life, and greed got the best of many people involved in the project. And after several years of working really hard to move things forward and not being able to, it was very frustrating, but it broke my heart to see the project come to an end due to corruption and theft, essentially. It really opened my eyes to a lot, and that's where my integrity has come in. While the investigation for the project was happening, all of us were thoroughly investigated, and I knew that I did everything I could to move that project along. I knew something was up, but I couldn't tell who was involved, and I have a lot of regret. I wish I would have spoken up, or did something sooner, and I carried that over into all of the projects that I take on. I feel a great sense of responsibility to be honest and be very detailed in what I do. So I'm protecting the people that actually deserve to be protected. And I'm not saying that anything like that, but it's just I do my very best to protect my clients when it comes to paint, period. I also get hired by paint contractors to help them improve from within, train their guys on how to use equipment, just everything from the surface preparation through to the top coat application. There's so many different factors that play into what makes a good paint job. Now, on a bridge or overpass, something like that, it's obviously going to be very different acceptance criteria. What the expectation is. People are not worried about seeing their reflection on the paint of a bridge or an overpass. So industrial applications are very different from yachts, obviously. However, when you boil it down to the chemistry, they're all the same. It's all just coatings, chemistry, thermodynamics, thermal expansion, that kind of stuff. Won't get into that yet, but just for reference here, we're going to show you what a normal survey will look like. So this is what's called a gloss meter. They're quite expensive. If I'm not mistaken, like $5,000-$6,000, maybe more. But I don't know if you can see this. It has a bunch of sensors, all pointed at different angles. And if you see this plate here, the plate is a calibration plate. So let's see those numbers. You see the 20 degrees, 107.8, 60 degrees is 103.5. Our gauge reads that, reads exactly what it should. So face down. Now, this is just for example. Gauge up here. And what I do is I take a bunch of readings. I'm going to spread them out somewhat. I'm going to try to make it as random as possible. It's very easy to, go to every single bad spot and say you have a terrible ankle. In reality, usually, 20 spots or so that maybe they are just small blemishes, that might need to work out. But that's where being fair reference. Now we'll come in here. Our mean average 62.8 at the 20 degree mark, 80.7 at the 60 degree mark. Now what that means is, for this gauge at least, 60 degrees is for mid to high gloss. 20 degrees is for high gloss. I would say for a brand new paint job, this would be the one to use. It's more accurate for high gloss. But I'm sure there's going to be people that want to argue that or fight me over it, but it's the truth. So the goal is to hit 100, for both or higher. The higher the number, the higher the gloss. What's also nice about this gauge is it does what's called RIQ, reflected image quality, meaning what we see the reflection. Is there any distortion in that? And I can tell you, we did hit a 90, which was excellent. We also hit a 68 with an average 78. Now, I would say this boat's maybe been painted a year, 6 months to a year ago, possibly. At least that's what I think. Anyway, so this is somewhat expected just due to normal wear and tear of cleaning and just use, UV damage, etc. Reflected image quality, though, is the one to use. There's another one called distinctness of image, DOI, but I do not recommend that at all. DOI doesn't pick up what's called orange peel. RIQ does. And if we hit a patch of orange peel that would cause a bunch of distortion in that reflection, RIQ will pick that up. So there's also haze, and then R-spec. R-spec is like peak gloss something. It's a little complicated, but haze is essentially, is there any cloudiness in the clear coat or top coat? And if so, that's usually an issue. Other gear. So I have a color meter, color variance meter anyway. What I can do with this is actually take, a measurement on one spot, take a measurement on another spot. Say there was an area damaged, just got recently repainted, and the vessel's owner or the captain or yacht management is concerned that the color doesn't match the hull or whatever, piece. I can come out and actually verify for certain with data, is there a difference in color? Now, there is a perceivable, like an allowance, if you will, because the color spectrum is pretty wild stuff once you get into that. I won't even get into it right now, but color is really interesting, what we see anyway. So there's 4 different measurements that this takes. I believe it does the normal printer ink color, where it's the yellow, magenta, black, and blue, something like that. It does that. It also does, I'll cut in and add the actual measurements. I'm drawing a blank right now. But there's 4 different ones. It gives you all the different values. And for color, for white color or lighter colors, the allowable limit is, if I'm not mistaken, 1.0 delta, and I forget the symbol for color, the color variance stuff, but it shows if it's below 1.0, or I'm sorry, for white and light colors, it's below 0.8, and for darker colors, it's 1.1. You want to be below that. So if I take a reading here and here, they're going to be normally 0.33, 0.44, 0.5 even. And there's some subtle color, variance, but under that threshold, the human eye can't detect it at all. It all looks the same. So that's where this, little thing comes in handy. We also use field microscopes that do 200 to 400 times magnification. Because what's interesting is these top coats are only applied at about 1 to 2 mils per coat. And most of you might not know what that is. I'll try to get into it, but the paint film, there's several different layers of paint on these boats. If it's bare fiberglass or steel or aluminum, that may impact what coating systems are used. For this example, we'll do a steel hull. So for steel, it has to be, steel and aluminum have to be abrasive blasted. If there was already abrasive blasting done, say when the boat was originally built, or recently when it was painted a few years back, as long as it's been done once, you're able to do water jetting to remove the bottom paint, or even the top paint. But when it comes to, you're hanging a bunch of material, and I say a bunch because the primers and the top coats are very thin. But with a lot of times with steel, as they're building these things, the steel will warp sometimes. And fun fact, if the less warping that occurs, in my opinion, I would say that you can assure that your boat was built properly. But won't get into that. Abrasive blasting for steel, you want a surface profile 2.5 to 3.5 for most of all grips products, and Alexial, Axalta, PPG, pretty much all of the coating systems require that kind of surface profile. And then once the abrasive blasting's done, then the primer, usually Hull Guard Extra, for instance, and then they add the fairing compound, which is basically like body filler. All fair LW, lightweight fairing compound. Good, it's excellent stuff. It can be applied to a maximum thickness of 6 millimeters, and I don't go above it. It's 236 mils or 6 millimeters. If it goes above that, you get air entrapment, bubbles, blisters in your top coat. You don't want it. 6 millimeters at the most. In warmer environments, I would honestly even back it down to 5 millimeters. Build it up slowly. Even if you have a big, deep spot, where the steel warped and you need to build that out, do it slow. Slow 5 millimeter passes. Build the material up so that it's flush, and then everything gets sanded down, longboarded often, which is very long. I've seen multi guy sanding boards that have 6, 7, 8 people all sanding at the same time with a really long board with a really long sheet of sandpaper, and that's to ensure that it's flat. Because if there's any divots or grooves or any imperfections in the surface, you're going to see them. No matter what paint, no matter how thick you put the paint on, you're going to see them. So that's where the true skill of these painters comes in, and I tip my hat to them, because this is extremely challenging to get a flawless finish on a structure like this. Harsh environments. It's really impressive what they've been able to do coatings wise, for these vessels. So with this one, this has just been for an example, but we would inspect the entire thing top to bottom, taking measurements all over the place, and then what we do is collect all this information. Even use color-coded masking tape to walk around and identify any non-conformance items. Obviously go around, document everything, and then within a few days, our goal anyway for my company is within 1 to 3 days, you have a professional technical report about your entire paint system. It shows the health, the quality of it currently. And some people will book me for every 6 months. We'll come and do the paint survey, provide them with the report, and that way they can track the entire paint system's health through their ownership. And when you go to sell a boat like this with that kind of paperwork, it shows the value that has been preserved. And again, preserving value equals more money. So these vessels can really hold their value, with the appropriate paint systems. What's really impressive, or sad anyway, is all it takes is one mistake while doing all of those different layers. You can have a flawless top coat, but if your fairing has bubbles and blisters in it, no matter what you do, until you address that, it's going to continue to happen. So you have to dig deep, find all of the bubbles, blisters that were trapped in there from applying the fairing too thick, and you don't want that. No owner wants that, and it drives the cost of the project through the roof. So the paint contractor isn't even going to make money anymore. He's either breaking even or losing money, and I've seen that more often than I would like. So that is my goal, is to help contractors improve, help owners understand what goes into the paint, so that way when it comes to paying for the job, my biggest gripe in the industry that I've seen is the price shopping. I understand saving money, I truly do. I'm not a billionaire or a millionaire yet, hopefully, but you get what you pay for when it comes to the paint stuff. If you go cheap, you might get an okay paint job. You might even get a good one. But I can almost guarantee you, if you go back to that same place, depending on the price, obviously. Now, say for one of these paint jobs to repaint the hull, maybe $500,000 to $700,000. Now, there's a lot of prep work, several weeks of prep work that goes into painting something like this, and it takes a lot of skill to just ensure that all of it is buttoned up, all of it is done in the appropriate manner to the appropriate thickness, even with the ambient conditions, the air temperature, humidity, dew point, surface temp to dew point ratio. All of that plays a major factor in the quality of paint job that you end up getting. And a lot of people don't realize when you go and get your vessel or asset of any structure or asset that needs to be painted, like either you or someone needs to specify exactly to what quality they're going to paint it to. If they go in with this random paint contractor, because he was the cheapest one, and says, he says that they're going to paint it, they do, but the reflection's terrible, it's all orange peel, there's, paint peeling off. You're like, you said you were going to paint it. He did paint it. So then you get into a legal battle. It's best to nip the stuff at the very start of the project, before the project even starts. Get yourself a paint specification. Now, All Grip, Alex Seal, they'll produce it. It's a sort of a specification, but it's more of a technical spec than it is a visual aesthetic specification. It doesn't state how high quality, this should be. In some instances, they'll state, with this product, you should be able to achieve, X to Y amount of, gloss or reflected image. They don't even do reflected image, but gloss, they specify that, they can hit 90, 90.0 gloss units, something, or 85, something like that. But when it comes to what define a good paint job, because then you get into like dust, debris, how many of those are allowed? There's a single speck of dust. Is it really fair to have the guy completely have to sand everything and redo it? Because a lot of the coatings are like that. You can't just come in here and do little, slap some paint on it and it's fine. It takes a lot of skill to blend and apply these coatings in the way that you can't even tell that anybody messed with it. It deals with measurements on a micron scale, very, very thin measurements. I would say on average, these coatings, with the exception of the fairing, are anywhere from like 3 to 10 mils. For reference, a mil is 1,000th of an inch, 25.4 microns, or 1 mil is 25.4 microns, and say a dollar bill is about, if I'm not mistaken, it's about 3 mils thick, 3 or 4 mils thick, which goes to show you, how thin these coatings really can get. Most boats will get repainted every 5 to 7 years, give or take. Some will go with wraps. They do look nice, but you'll get a year out of it. Maybe 2-3 years. It can definitely buy you some time, but ultimately the paint system is, you really should have a solid paint system to just ensure the value of the vessel stays where, at its highest point at least. There's a lot to cover, but the biggest issue I'm seeing is a lot of galvanic corrosion, and that's from stainless steel being bolted to aluminum. And, we all love the shiny stainless steel. The issue comes, not from, as you can see, there's a thick gasket here. The issue comes from where these stainless steel screws make contact with the aluminum threads. Often what you'll see, if they're not insulated or like Tef gel, something like that, to insulate the stainless from the aluminum, you have galvanic corrosion. You end up with a white powdery substance underneath of a paint blister, and no one wants that. And it's really unfortunate because it's a fairly cheap thing to handle, because each screw would be a few pennies to 25 cents or so at the most, I would think, for some type of insulation to prevent galvanic corrosion. It's the simplest thing to avoid. And because you can have a perfect paint job, if those metals are touching, you're going to have problems. We also inspect the black, gray, and potable water tanks that are inside. These wonderful vessels have their own, wastewater treatment plants basically built in, and water treatment, reverse osmosis systems, and all the piping and everything. It's pretty impressive. At least I find this interesting. Like the coating stuff, the paint, like stuff that I learned doing wastewater treatment plants carried over into this. Doing bridge work, steel, seeing just different processes on the industrial side, just seeing what opportunities are out there. It changed my life, forever. I'm very grateful for where I'm at, and I'm hoping to grow this. There's not many people, in the world that are super aware of this. So yeah, that's the purpose of this video, is to help bring awareness to it. Again, it's the Coating Inspector program from AMP. And if you're in the Fort Lauderdale area and have a yacht, or globally, honestly, if you have a paint project of any kind around the globe and would like a paint expert to help you, please get in touch with us. Revay Coating Consultants Inc. We can be reached at info@revayconsulting.com, and that's REVAY consulting.com. Our website is revayconsulting.com. Find us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I believe we're going to be setting up an Instagram account here soon. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video, and I hope this was somewhat informative and kind of showed you some of the cool stuff that we get to see. And this is going to be the plan, going forward with this channel, is to just kind of show different jobs, different paths you can take with this stuff, with the paint industry. And I'm here to help mentor people that are interested in this, getting into this career. So please, don't be shy. Feel free to comment, down below. Please subscribe, give the video a like, if you're feeling up for it. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.